for an FHWA update.
How's everybody doing? All right, we're getting some excitement going on here. Well, I'm glad I had an opportunity to talk, and over the last few years, COVID, it's great to see everybody be in person. And one of the things during COVID I did quite a lot of is a lot of the web-based training. And going across the country and talking to agencies, they're like, stop it with the web-based training. We got money, we can travel, bring it to us. So that's now what I'm doing, and we're going to probably these webinars that I've been doing for the last 3 years. We've done 28 of them, and they've been great. Probably going to go outreach more, and we got some pooled fund programs coming up, which I'll talk about, which really we want to get into with the state agencies to work more of what are some of the deficiencies of why we're not doing more of these, and we're really looking forward to doing that, and I'll talk more about it as we go. But again, like anything, we could talk about a preservation program, but you got to have a plan. And then we talked about the STIP process, and I think that's great, 5-year plan. But there also needs to be something internally with the agencies on how they're going to move preservation program to the future. And it's been great to see the TAMPs include that finally. That's been a great incentive for preservation and moving with the state agencies. Now it's kind of taken to the next step of, okay, what can we use the federal aid funding for? And I talked to a few state agencies here already, but for some that don't have agreements, I know Montana does with their division, but there are others that we can work with on getting that information out there for between the state and the division on getting what is eligible for federal aid and et cetera. And I know New Mexico, I worked with Jeff Mann prior to him leaving, and we got that program up and running, and it's great to see that, and it's nice to see the price agreements going forward, because again, that's an alternative contracting method. That's fantastic. Just nice to see all that moving in the right direction. For federal highway, we do have a preservation definition, and we really focus on the work that is planned and performed. And I should underline those because that's very important to improve and sustain that condition of that transportation facility in a state of good repair. And we leave it up to the agencies of how they dictate what that state of good repair is. But again, that is our definition. It's not preventative maintenance treatments that talk about each individual treatment. It is pavement preservation. It's that planned and performed work activities that are engaged in that, using your pavement management system, using your life cycle cost information to make that happen, and getting that, working in with your pavement management system to get those projects out there. And in addition, and it's nice to see in some folks' slides, and I always like to point to Jason, keeping that good roads good, because that's a motto that I really like, and I know state agencies like Utah has been using that for many, many years, and that's very important. You'll see an icon on the top right-hand corner. Over the last 3 or 4 years, as Tony mentioned yesterday, federal highway, we've gone through kind of an up and down on preservation. But over the last 3 years, working with our new leadership at our headquarters office, we really developed what we call this PAC group, program area credibility teams from different environments, from our Turner Fairbanks office for our research to our headquarters office that works with policy, and myself with training. We work with these individual groups, and there's the 7 over there. You got your design, you got your materials, you got your quality assurance, then you have your construction, then you have your pavement preservation, as well as your pavement management system. We work all entwined with all of these groups to come up with what are things that we're going to do on a yearly basis. And I'll talk a little bit further as we move forward. But along behold, we do have our strategic plan for federal highway that incorporates preservation. And this has been a great step in the right direction. From 2019 to 2022, it states that FHWA will continue to raise the awareness of these proven strategies, such as performance-based practical design, to use of preservation techniques, to a cost-effective extent for that service life of that pavement. So that came right from our strategic plan. And that was great because that showed that our leadership really supported us 100% on this. And in the years before, it wasn't really the case, but it's nice to see that. In addition, what is our role for Federal Highway? We really wanted to make sure that was clear out there because a lot of agencies say, well, you know, what's Federal Highway doing in preservation? We're not doing enough. Well, we dictated what these roles are going to be. It's going to provide that policy and leadership from our headquarters office, from Tony and our Tom at our headquarters office. In addition, it's going to include training, technology transfer that we normally do, and providing that effective application of these preservation treatments. It's also going to demonstrate, in what we've seen so far in some of the presentations by some of the state agencies, to demonstrate that economic, social, and environmental benefits. And we'll see a lot of things coming out through our Federal Highway office at headquarters on sustainability, and that factor alone on the environmental benefits will really push this forward to move this program a little bit even better. And then lastly, to conduct and sponsor research activities through our Turner Fairbanks Highway office. We always want to make sure that happens as innovations come along, we always want to improve in the technologies. So what are some of the PAC things that came out on the research? Because we talked yesterday about research statements. These are some of the things that came out from our group. We organize on a yearly basis in the February to the March timeframe. I lead this group on pavement preservation and rehabilitation on getting guys to and gals together to come up with topics. Then when that April and May timeframe comes around, we really organize them from 1 to 5 on which we think is the most important. Then it goes to our leadership and they approve it and it moves forward. Then the following year in about the January, February range, we get our funding and we move those efforts forward. But this was one of the ones that was first chosen is pavement preservation in urban environments. Best practices, and Dr. Vargas is going to talk about this a little later today before we finish for today, but that's an ongoing project that just got started. And for the urban communities, this has been great because it's been great information to share to other urban areas. The second is to develop web-based training for combination treatments. We heard a little bit of information on using Cape seals and some of those other alternatives. It's a great success story, but there needs to be further training to help agencies move that effort forward. And we've been working with the Arkansas DOT. They're leading this effort, and they are in the process of going to be choosing a contractor to move that forward, and we're going to be starting, hopefully by the end of this year, making and rolling that out. So stay tuned for that web-based training. In addition, update our NHI course 134214 on leveraging your maintenance management system. Very important. As we talk about asset management and so forth, this is another good tool that's going to help agencies move that forward. Next is the 131145 pavement preservation, design, and inspection. Inspection, we're hearing a lot of people say, that's where, we don't have the staff, we don't have the people, so we need to give them the opportunities to learn from this training to help them out in the field, and we're glad to bring that out there and make that happen. That was one of the things that came out of our roadmap that was recently completed, and that's where we're looking forward to rolling that out. And then lastly, we got a second alternative on this, looking at recycled asphalt pavements, wrap materials for pavement preservation. And we're really going to focus on this time on the material specification and storage, the silos and the piles that are stockpiled. What are the processes that agencies need to know about this? And we're looking forward to that starting up and moving forward. And then last but not least, on the design phase, we heard a little bit yesterday talking about the McLeod method for chip seals. We're going to have develop an Excel-based tool for chip seal design. Give the designers just a simple little tool on how they go about designing that, and we're looking forward to that rolling out as well. And again, there's a lot of methods out there. There's a lot of comments that I hear from other agencies using the McLeod method, but we're going to try to put all those thoughts together and make this tool something that can be useful for everyone. Furthermore, we can't say enough about our stakeholders. They are a part of this, not just Federal Highway. It starts with our government agencies, the AASHTO community, working with them and making these happen. The Emulsion Task Force Group has been very beneficial, and et cetera. The TSP, through BOSID, it's been excellent over the years. We want to continue that effort. And as well as the industry organizations. PPRA, through these webinars, they have provided some excellent speakers. And if you hadn't gone into the site, just they've been excellent. Just to give you a range of some of the ones for the last 3 years, from Emulsions 101 to milling best practices, crack treatments, engineering emulsions, tack coats and fog seals, just a variety of great topics that are out there for people that are just getting into this that want further information. And then next, academic organizations, how we move this forward to getting the young generation more inclined with preservation and et cetera. So stay tuned. In addition, what are our focus areas? Well, one of the focus areas has been working with our technical feedback group. It used to be years ago our pavement preservation technical support team, but it's changed over the years because, again, we are stepping aside from what we used to do and looking at more ways to looking at those challenges and observation that agencies have with their pavement preservation communities and how to develop a plan for them to make preservation occur in their local agencies, DOTs, and industries. So we meet twice a year. Tony now is in charge with that, rolling that out, and I know we got a meeting coming up here in the near future, and we really look forward to that, and just another avenue of how we enrich and work with them. The next is looking at our opportunities. Expand the knowledge and experiences like we're doing here today, sharing the information, best practices, what has worked, looking at warranties, and et cetera. Encourage agencies to become more pavement preservation oriented. You know, we know when our pavements are going to need rehab, but do we know when our preservation treatments are going to need another preservation treatment? We're getting better. There's studies that Dr. Vargas is working on to help with that. But again, that's just one way we need to get better at that. And then also foster collaboration and operation amongst our stakeholders. And one thing that I like to reach out is, if you haven't, over there in the next door is a little card here talking about our 2023 slurry systems workshops by ISSA. Federal Highway, over the last 4 years, we have provided agencies that are interested free opportunities for virtual training, as well as going to it live in the past. But now we're really going to focus on the virtual training, where you can take this in your own office and get some of this experience. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to Tony and myself, and we'll get you on the list. But again, great opportunities for training. Next, let's talk about our strategic elements, our mission. Very important, like many agencies, preserving our national valuable highway infrastructure, keeping good roads good in condition, and using the most important cost-effective pavement preservation treatments out there. And that's very key, because we know budget money is a big thing, especially right now, and we got to do what we can. And then our objective is to help these agencies move forward and implement pavement preservation in a data-driven and systematic manner to optimize pavement performance, maximize use of funding, and incorporate effective stakeholder engagements. Very key. A lot of words, but all play a major role. So we looked at strategies. Strategy number 1 was explore and disseminate pavement preservation fundamentals. We had pocket guides that we did that were redone here 2 or 3 years ago that are available on our Federal Highway website. We'd redone those, and they're out there for folks to use. In addition, this last couple years, we've been working on a benchmark study. It's been since the late 1990s that we really reached out to agencies on how they were doing preservation treatments. And now we're taking that information and trying to come up with strategies with our strategic plan on where we need to go forward. And I was really hoping to talk about that during this meeting this time, but unfortunately it didn't happen, but maybe next time we can talk about it further. In addition, propose standard matrices to quantify what those pavement preservation methods are going to be and those benefits. And then identify those gaps in decision-making practices. What is holding agencies back? Furthermore, increase pavement preservation understanding. We heard a lot of people talk about the use of their pavement management system. We now have a Pavement Management 101 introductory course on our NHI website. I think it's only $25 to register. But for those young engineers coming on board, what is important with a pavement management system? It provides a very 2 or 3 hour course that they can take. That's really what we would like to see management systems having. In addition, publish education and reference materials as we go forward, and facilitate educating training, like I mentioned, with the PPRA that we've been doing for the last 2 years. Strategy number 2, encourage effective pavement preservation programs. We know all those pavements that failed, but we need to encourage more on those that have worked very well. And it's nice to see Montana talking about some of the success stories. That's excellent, but we need to do more of that. And I know Tony and working with ARA, they are working on a marketing process to really make that happen more. Ohio has a great website that I have talking about their program and how they committed dollars and how that saved them. We need to share that. We need to do more of that to make that more effective. Provide construction inspection training. I talked about that already, which we're going to have an NHI course be coming out here real soon. Identify pavement preservation considerations during the pavement design activities. That's again with that tool for that Microsoft process I told you about. And then looking at integrating performance management. Pavement management system, the usage, and provide technical tools to identify the appropriate preservation and rehab construction projects. Then lastly, leverage industry and other stakeholders' resources. Promote construction certification programs. We're all for that, but we cannot push agencies to move in that direction. We think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea for contractors to get on board because their people come and go. We think it's great. And then we want to partner with showcases similar to this. The last strategy, number 3, is facilitate strategic planning, research, and implementation efforts. Here we're going to lead and support critical research and development projects, like I talked about the RAP usage, how that's being done here in New Mexico and California and other states that are moving that forward. And then we're also going to be working on this next year on developing a fact sheet and research reports that we think is important. And then lastly, implement coordination preservation programs by marketing plans, like I mentioned, like Tony talked about yesterday. Engage stakeholders through participation in sponsorships from conferences, workshops, and etc. We're wanting to do that and more. And again, there's flyers here. Feel free to, if you haven't taken one yesterday, please feel free to take one. It's free, and there's a lot of great resources there. One of the last things both agencies have to show some outcomes. And through our strategic plan, we have broken it down to basically looking and disseminating our fundamentals of pavement preservation. Through the benchmark study, some of the other activities that we're doing, we're really going to try to reconvene and come up with how have we done for the last 2 years on this. The second one, encourage effective pavement preservation programs. And then lastly, facilitate strategic pavement preservation research and implementation efforts. And one of the next things I'm going to talk about is a pooled fund study, which was rotated around the room. That's something I've been working on for the last 4 years. Gary Hicks, he's not here today, but he worked on basically setting up this full pooled fund with a lot of great documentation of how to go about setting it up, how to test how to create your test sections, and all the things that needed to happen. But again, it just didn't get the funding to move forward. So now we do have the funding, and we have Texas, we have Minnesota, as well as Federal Highway on board, and now we're going to be marketing this a lot in the next month. Again, our strategic next steps is just to share our strategic plan, letting you know how we feel and how we're moving forward. We're also going to be meeting here in another month to update it. And we're going to continue to carry out our activities in our implementation program process because we think it's important. Again, here's that pool fund. It's solicitation number 1581. It talks about improving the quality of preventative maintenance, construction, and data collection practices. We heard a little bit about demonstration projects yesterday, and they're great. But the one good thing about this program, we're going to try to get agencies all to come together, and we're going to create a strategic plan on how we're going to do this, that all the agencies that are a part of this pool fund can agree to. And then we're also going to be looking at coming together with a long-term monitoring program. And working with Turner Fairbanks, we're able to do that process. We're able to put out WIM stations to get the amount of traffic that's on the preservation treatments. And we're also going to be able to go out there and get the distresses and identify those stresses for the agencies. Oftentimes, they just don't have the people to do that. We're going to have the contractor come out and do this, that it's going to be doing it on all these projects, so the evaluations will all be the same, which is very critical on these type of projects. But again, it's going to unify the strategies. It's going to address the implementation efforts. So if an agency really hasn't tried a particular type of preservation treatment, this will give them an opportunity. They can have that test section right toward another test section that has worked with them in the past to see how it performs. So we're really excited about that, and I can't tell you enough. I've been wanting to roll this out for the last 5 years and biting my tongue, and it's finally going to happen. And develop some best practices. You know, we talked yesterday about the specifications at agencies that was adopted by this AASHTO group, which is great. But we're also going to take that information to these state agencies, and we're going to work with them on their specifications as well as this to see where the differences lie, to make it so they're happy with these projects in their own backyard. I can't say that enough. And then, again, there is going to be this LTPP InfoPave web portal that agencies can get onto it anytime to get that information that'll be readily available. It's a 6-year program. We're asking for $50,000 each year for this process. It's not that expensive. I think everything that comes along with it, it's going to really be an all-in-all payoff for everyone that's going to be participating. I'm going to say his name, Joel Orring from Minnesota DOT. He's leading this effort. It's not federal highway, so it'll be a state agency leading this, and we look forward to it. I just throw this in. Any state interested, show me your hands, but we won't let you. You're getting ready for lunch. But we really hope you're interested. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, lastly, our preservation team, shows our coordinators at headquarters office. We got Thomas Van, Antonio. Again, they deal with policy. They deal with the federal aid funding. We have a research area, our Turner Fairbanks, Morgan Kessler, and myself at the Resource Center, where I provide the technical assistance to agencies. I provide training, and et cetera. I leave this now for questions. There is a QR code there if you're not up to the century of what the website is, but any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime, and thanks for the committee for having me here today.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.